Truth makes you vulnerable. Honesty leads to exploitation. Transparency opens doors to manipulation. This is the shadow of convenient truths that most self-help gurus are afraid to acknowledge. But today, we will delve into the harsh wisdom of a man who understood the essence of power better than anyone in history. Niccolò Machiavelli did not seek to be loved. He was interested in victory, and his most controversial understanding states that sometimes deception is necessary for success. Let us consider two politicians running for office. Alex does not hide the truth. He honestly speaks about the upcoming challenges, refrains from making false promises, and believes that the truth will earn him the respect of the people. His opponent, James, understands the game differently. He tells the public exactly what they want to hear, distorting the truth to create an illusion of confidence and easy solutions. On election day, who do you think wins? It is James. Not because he is the better leader, but because he knew that people do not vote for the truth. They vote for the story they want to believe. You are probably thinking that deception is not evil, that honesty is not a vice. But what if I told you that your moral absolutism might be what is holding you back from achieving greatness? What if the most successful people in history, those we respect and study, understood something about deception that you do not? Today, we will explore the harshest truths of Machiavelli about power, deception, and why the winners in history have rarely been the most honest players. This is uncomfortable knowledge. This is unpalatable wisdom, but perhaps it is exactly what you need to hear. Let us begin with Machiavelli's most famous and controversial assertion. In his masterpiece, The Prince, he noted that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. This simple statement contradicts everything that modern leadership books preach. We are taught that leaders should inspire, unite, and empathize. Machiavelli would call this dangerous naivety. People are by nature treacherous beings who will not keep their promises to you, so you are not obligated to keep your promises to them. This harsh assessment of human nature lies at the core of Machiavellian thinking. He believed that people are primarily selfish, ungrateful, and fickle. When you understand this truth, you realize that excessive honesty is not a virtue. It is foolishness. But why is this important for you? Because regardless of whether you are running a business, leading a team, negotiating a salary, or navigating social interactions, you are engaging in power dynamics. And in these dynamics, revealing all your cards is not a strategy. It is capitulation. Think back to the last time you were completely honest in negotiations. How did that work out for you? Did the other party respond to your honesty in kind? Or did they use your transparency against you? If you are like most people, you learned this lesson the hard way. But perhaps you are still uncomfortable with the idea of strategic deception. Allow me to ask you a question. Have you ever found yourself assuring someone that their haircut is magnificent when it was not? Have you increased your interest in a friend's creative project? Have you suppressed your true feelings to maintain a relationship? Congratulations. You are already applying Machiavellian principles. The difference is that you use deception for protection and to avoid conflicts. Machiavelli, however, suggests using it strategically to achieve goals. In the complex game of power, Machiavelli provides us with an important lesson through a powerful metaphor of two animals, symbolizing different approaches to leadership. One of the most striking comparisons Machiavelli makes is equating effective leaders to two animals, the fox and the lion. The fox must be there to recognize traps, while the lion must be there to scare off wolves, he argued. The fox symbolizes cunning and strategy, while the lion represents strength and intimidation. The lion cannot protect itself from traps, and the fox cannot fend off wolves. Therefore, one must be a fox to recognize traps, or a lion to frighten wolves. Napoleon would embody this duality perfectly. As a military strategist, Napoleon was the epitome of the fox, misleading enemies about his movements, pretending to be weak, and employing psychological warfare to undermine the morale of the opponent. In the year 1805, he convinced the Austrians of his weakness and retreat, only to quickly surround and defeat them. But Napoleon could also be a lion, demonstrating overwhelming strength and intimidation, as he did when he returned from exile and reclaimed France without a single shot being fired. Thanks to his personality and reputation, most people strive for success using only one approach. They are either completely open, exclusively strong like a lion, or exclusively manipulative like a fox. True Machiavellian success lies in the ability to apply each strategy at the right time. Steve Jobs embodied both of these traits. His field of reality distortion personified the cunning of the fox, convincing people of the possibility of the impossible. Was this not honesty? Perhaps. But it was how he inspired teams to achieve what they considered unattainable. At the same time, Jobs could be intimidatingly powerful, embodying both the cunning of the fox and the strength of the lion. The key is understanding the context and the stakes. In high-stakes situations, where your vital interests are at stake, honesty may be a luxury you cannot afford. In less significant situations or with close allies, transparency builds the trust you will need more. Perhaps the most controversial teaching of Machiavelli concerns the relationship between truth, virtue, and the appearance of virtue. He boldly asserted that everyone sees what something seems to be. Only a few know what something truly is. A prince may not possess all the mentioned virtues, but he must certainly appear to possess them. Julius Caesar mastered this principle perfectly. Although he was a dictator in all but name, he skillfully maintained the appearance of respect for republican traditions. When he was publicly offered the crown, he declined, but secretly continued to strengthen his power. He appointed senators and maintained traditional positions, stripping them of their actual authority. Caesar understood that it was important for Romans to believe in the existence of the republic, even as he transformed it into what would soon become an empire. The appearance of constitutional legitimacy was more important than its reality. This understanding contradicts all the inspiring posts on social media that urge sincerity. Machiavelli would find such advice naive and laughable. He knew that the world judges by outward appearances, not by substance. Look at social media influencers who create the illusion of a perfect life while hiding their problems. Politicians promote family values, yet behave differently behind the scenes. Corporations speak of environmental responsibility, but secretly disregard standards. Is this deception? Yes. But are they effective? Absolutely. But do I suggest that you should be completely two-faced? Not at all. What I propose, and what Machiavelli spoke of, is strategic inconsistency between your public image and personal actions when necessary to achieve your goals. Imagine a situation. On a first date, do you immediately reveal all your flaws and fears? Of course not. You present your best side. Gradually, as trust strengthens, you reveal more of your true self. This is not deception, but strategic self-presentation. The same principle applies in the professional sphere. In a job interview, you do not discuss your weaknesses unless directly asked. When presenting a business idea, you emphasize the advantages and downplay the risks. This is not lying, but strategically highlighting certain truths over others. Here, Machiavelli truly stands out among conventional wisdom. He believed that sometimes what appears cruel in the short term is actually kinder in the long term. Conversely, what seems kind in the short term may lead to greater suffering over time. It is safer to be feared than loved, because love is sustained by a commitment that, due to the base nature of people, breaks at the first opportunity for personal gain. But fear keeps you in check through the threat of punishment, which never fails. Napoleon understood this principle perfectly. After seizing power in France amidst the chaos and bloodshed of the Revolution, he implemented seemingly harsh measures. He centralized power, created an efficient bureaucracy, and ruthlessly suppressed opposition. Nevertheless, these seemingly cruel actions created stability after years of turmoil. By establishing clear authority quickly, rather than attempting a more gradual and gentle transition, Napoleon prevented greater cruelty from ongoing chaos and civil unrest. Let me provide a modern example. Imagine you are a manager, and you notice that one of your employees consistently fails to meet their responsibilities. The benevolent approach involves avoiding difficult conversations, providing gentle feedback, and hoping for improvement. The tough approach entails direct confrontation, clear consequences, and possibly termination if improvements do not occur. In the short term, the benevolent approach may seem more preferable, but what happens over time? Ineffectiveness continues to impact team morale. Other employees take on additional burdens and begin to feel discontent. The business suffers. Ultimately, more radical measures become necessary, affecting more people and more seriously. Temporary tough measures, such as early direct confrontation, actually prevent greater suffering in the future. This is Machiavellian thinking in its most paradoxical yet powerful manifestation. Recall Winston Churchill, who led Britain as Prime Minister during World War II. Did he deceive by saying the situation was under control? No. He promised only blood, toil, tears, and sweat. This was a brutal but honest assessment that prepared the nation for the sacrifices ahead instead of offering false comfort. The Machiavellian response lies in a ruthless focus on results rather than appearances or intentions. The concept that the end justifies the means is perhaps the most misunderstood Machiavellian notion. People use it to justify all sorts of selfish behavior, but that is not what Machiavelli intended. In fact, he wrote that in the actions of all people, especially rulers, where there is no higher authority for appeal, the final outcome is what matters. In other words, when results are of utmost importance, and there is no higher authority for appeal, the methods are less significant than the outcomes. People tend to judge more by appearances than by actual actions, because everyone sees how you look, while few know who you truly are. Julius Caesar's crossing of the Rubicon, technically an illegal act of war against Rome, illustrates this principle. By bringing his army into Italy, Caesar broke the law, but he believed that preventing the destruction of his achievements, along with the Senate and his punishment, justified this violation. History has largely vindicated him. The Republic had already failed, and Caesar's actions, though illegal, laid the groundwork for the Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity that followed. This principle does not justify any action for any purpose. It justifies necessary actions for the most important goals when there is no better alternative. This distinction is important. Recall how Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War, a fundamental constitutional right. Was this a deception? Was it an overreach of presidential power? Likely, yes. But did it help preserve the Union in its greatest existential threat? Yes, it did. The Machiavellian question is not whether an action is virtuous in itself, but whether that action leads to results that serve the common good. Your understanding of the highest good determines which goals justify which means. If your goal is solely personal enrichment, employing Machiavellian methods turns you into a manipulator. However, if you seek to benefit others while simultaneously gaining for yourself, The same tactics make you a strategic thinker. Machiavelli recognized one important thing about reputation. It is your most valuable asset, which does not require complete transparency to maintain. The main condition is the alignment between your words and the results achieved, rather than necessarily between your words and your methods. As Machiavelli noted, people tend to be impressed by outward appearances and final outcomes. This is not a critique of society, but an observation of human nature. People primarily judge based on results and superficial signs, without looking behind the scenes. Promises made in the past were a necessity, and their violation has become a necessity of the present. Few in modern history have mastered this better than Henry Kissinger. He understood that in politics, perception becomes reality, and managing the narrative is just as important as the actions themselves. His secret diplomacy with China in the 1970s, conducted behind closed doors until the world learned of those negotiations, fundamentally changed global political structures. He openly supported peace efforts in Vietnam while secretly prolonging the conflict to improve the negotiating position of the United States. He spoke of stability while facilitating covert operations to overthrow governments. As a result, despite these contradictions, Kissinger remains one of the most respected diplomatic figures of the 20th century. His reputation was based not on honesty, but on results. He struck deals that changed the course of world affairs. And as Machiavelli predicted, people judged him by outcomes, not by methods. Look at modern corporations or governments. Strategic secrecy, controlled leaks, and disinformation campaigns are standard tools of power. Companies like Apple reveal only what they want, shaping demand through anticipation and mystery. Governments manipulate narratives to maintain influence. These tactics work not because of their honesty, but because they create the desired results. The Machiavellian truth is that your reputation depends not on absolute honesty in methods, but on consistently providing value to others. If your strategic maneuvers ultimately benefit those around you, your reputation remains intact. But there is an important nuance. Reputation crumbles when deception is perceived as purely selfish, rather than in the interest of the higher good. Therefore, effective leaders present their actions, even manipulative ones, as aimed at stability, progress, or the common good. Because in the end, history does not remember those who played fair. It remembers those who won. This is one of the most cynical yet powerful observations by Machiavelli. The essence of successful collaboration lies in each party fully trusting the other while demonstrating strategic confidence to the outside world. Look at successful business alliances, such as Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who have remained loyal to each other for decades, skillfully managing their public image. The paradox of Machiavellianism is that strategic deception towards many allows for genuine trust with a few, and these trusted individuals become your greatest strength. We have touched on many controversial topics. Therefore, let me clarify. I do not advocate dishonesty as a universal approach. What I propose and what Machiavelli suggested is a strategic understanding of when complete openness serves your goals and when it harms them. An ethical Machiavellian uses deception not for selfish gain at the expense of others, but to create value that benefits both themselves and those around them. They understand that leadership sometimes requires confidence amid doubt, that in negotiations it is sometimes necessary to keep your cards close to your chest, and that managing perception is just as important as managing reality. Where there is great willingness, there are not great difficulties. In a world of ideal people, complete honesty might be the optimal strategy. But in our imperfect world, with imperfect people pursuing complex goals, strategic opacity sometimes achieves greater good than rigid openness. Ask yourself this question. What goals are most important to you? What methods will most effectively help you achieve those goals? And when is strategic deception justified by the value it creates for you and others? This is Machiavelli's final lesson, perhaps the most important one. Power is neither inherently good nor evil. It is a tool that amplifies the intention of its user. If your intention ultimately serves others as well as yourself, then Machiavelli's strategies are not immoral. They are effective. If this video has made you think or provided a new perspective on power strategy, do not forget to like it. Share it with someone who needs these uncomfortable truths. And remember, in a world where virtue is often turned against the virtuous, a little Machiavellian thinking may be just what is needed to win without losing yourself.